Atticus here with MMA Island. I got Ricardo Lamas, fresh off his victory last weekend. How you doing, Ricardo?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. Any Labor Day? Got any Labor Day plans tonight with your fam?
Just relaxing, laying low. Been kind of spending this whole week spending time with them, and we've been doing stuff all week because I was gone for so long. So I think we're just gonna lay low today, though.
That's cool. Yeah, I got the same plans. Pretty much just hanging at the house. So yeah, obviously again, congrats on the win last weekend. That must have felt good because you were out of action for over a year, since June of 2019. Was there a reason you were out for so long? Was there any injuries, or did you just want to take that time off?
Yeah, because of my last fight, I ended up suffering 2 fractures in my jaw. Had to get surgery. Had some plates put in. So I was really taking the time to just let the jaw really heal up. I got cleared to start training again like the August after that fight. So I got right back in there, started training, and was just really focusing on my gym, UFC gym in Naperville that I have, and just kind of building that up. And just just waiting until I felt 100% ready to get back in the cage. So, it was basically the injury that made it take so long to get back in there.
Right. And you run your own gym. How long have you been running that for?
We've been open a little over 2 years now. We opened up the doors in May 5th, 2018.
May 5th, 2018. Okay, cool. And so your last opponent, Bill Aljo, was he someone the UFC offered you, or did you say you wanted to fight him, or how did that fight come up?
Yeah, they were kind of scrambling at the end there. Ryan Hall dropped out, with only 7 days notice till the fight. So there were a few other names kind of that they sent us in the list, but none of those kind of panned out. They couldn't get cleared by the commission. So luckily the Algio fight went through.
Okay. And how did that feel, getting the win after being out for so long?
It felt great, man. Coming back from an injury like that, it was important for me to get back in there, get back in the win column. More of kind of a lesson in the future that I could show my kids that, it doesn't matter how hard you fall down, you can still get back up and still be successful.
Nice. And what would you say? So you didn't put the gloves down in the cage or anything, but you did say that may be your last fight. You've had a pretty great career. What would you say is your highlight of your career, like a moment, your favorite moment in your career?
I think this last fight ranks up there pretty high, especially with kind of like the post-fight interview and little speech that I gave that really went viral, not only in the Cuban American community, but in Cuba as well. It's been going around, just been getting kind of an import of messages from people thanking me for kind of spreading the word. But there's a lot of fights that kind of stand out and that I'll remember forever. Obviously fighting for the title. My very first fight in the UFC was a big one because that was like a dream that I've had since I was a kid. Very first fight in my hometown in the UFC when I fought Eric Koch. Very first fight in Mexico. It was the first time that the UFC ever went to Latin America. So I was a big part of that and kind of helping break into to South America. So it was really cool.
And you if I'm not mistaken, that was when you fought Charles Oliveira.
That was Dennis Bermudez. UFC 180, I fought Dennis Bermudez.
Oh, right. Yeah, they my mistake. They went to because that was in Mexico, wasn't it, when you fought Charles Oliveira as well?
It was, yes.
Correct. Okay, yeah, Dennis. Okay, because and didn't you submit Bermudez too?
I did, yeah.
And you got them both. Was it both of the guillotine?
Yeah, both of the guillotine.
Is that the submission you train the most? With?
It's the one I hit the most, for sure.
Yeah,
it's my favorite one. I have a lot of different variations and setups, and it's probably my best submission that I have.
Yeah, I mean, you got Charles Oliveira with that, who's kind of known for that move. So that and after he missed weight too, so that was big feather in the cap, I think, for you.
He almost missed weight for lightweight. Like he weighed in at 155 pounds. So
he was 155. I thought he was like 152. Oh my God.
155. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's I'm surprised he still took. Big props for taking that fight. I would have been like, fuck that. This dude, it's like a weight class ahead of me.
There was so much that happened because I don't know if you remember, but I was originally supposed to fight BJ Penn in Manila in the Philippines.
Oh, were you? Okay, no, I don't think I knew that.
So BJ got injured, and then after that, they just canceled the entire card. So then they put me on the Mexico card like 3 or 4 weeks later. So there was just a lot that I went through for that camp, and there's no way that I was going to leave without fighting somebody. So I decided to take the fight with Oliveira.
Props for that. Yeah, I would. That's to miss weight by 10 pounds. Were you kind of like pissed with him, or like were you?
I was actually worried for a second because the way they were making it sound, they were making it sound like the commission wasn't even going to let the fight happen, even though I was going to accept it.
Okay.
But yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. I was like, it wasn't even close, like,
no.
And I saw him that week. We were actually in the sauna together cutting weight earlier in the week. So
yeah,
he must have known that he wasn't even anywhere close to making weight.
Yeah. So in your career, you've had a lot of fights. Has there been any bad blood, like any opponents you don't or didn't like or anything?
Not really. I think all the opponents that I had, we kind of always had a mutual respect for each other. I never really got in. I mean, there was a couple of times like on Twitter, me and Cub kind of had some exchanges, but it was after our first fight. And it was just kind of him. I understand the fight game, and I don't take any of this stuff personally when fighters like try and call me out or whatever. Cub is a great fighter, great guy. I've talked to him plenty of times, so there's no bad blood there.
Yeah.
So I've been pretty fortunate to not have anybody trash talking me too bad.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're a pretty respectful guy. I've never really. There's not really much.
The worst one that I had actually was the Bermudez fight. And I didn't even know about it until after. Like in his pre-fight interview, he was talking me down a lot and was saying stuff like, how does Ricardo win this fight? He can't knock me out. He can't submit me. He can't take me down. And I literally did all of those things in the fight. So it was kind of like one of those things. Be careful what you say because it might come back and bite you in the ass later.
It would have been interesting if you had seen that before and he could have kind of roasted him in the post-fight interview. But,
yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it till afterwards
though. So you, I remember back in, I think it was 2017, you were scheduled to fight Aldo again. Was it 8? It was 17, I think.
Yeah.
Were you confident about that rematch? Like, do you think you could have? I mean, that was right after Aldo had lost to Max. And do you think was that a rematch you were feeling confident about?
It was definitely a rematch that I wanted to have. I feel like in the first fight I was a little too hesitant. Mm-hmm. There was just so much pressure on me in that fight, the title being on the line, and you're like at the door of completing like the biggest dream that you've ever had in your life.
Yeah.
And I just kind of froze up a little bit in that fight. I didn't get working until it was too little too late.
Yeah, you got the 5th round, I think, didn't you?
Yeah. So it was definitely a fight that I wanted to have back. But unfortunately it just didn't go through.
Yeah, no, it's fair. And then obviously, I mean, you took the Josh Emmett fight, which was a lot of people respect. Was that, were you confident going into that one with Josh Emmett, or was that like, were your coaches, like, what did they say? Like, did they think it was a good decision or?
They, especially when he missed weight, they kind of left it up. Yeah, they kind of left it up to me. I'm pretty confident in my abilities. I feel like if I perform to the best of my abilities, right? If I have a great performance, I can beat anyone. I can, mm-hmm. I can be in the cage and really give a good fight with really anybody in the world. I truly believe that. It's just you have to be on that night,
Yeah.
I knew of Emmett, and I knew that, even though he was kind of a newcomer to the UFC and people didn't really know him too much yet, I knew him, and I knew that he was a dangerous opponent. And when you get to this level, there are no easy fights, really, you know.
Yeah, agreed.
So I was confident going in, but he was just, you know, the better guy that night.
Would you possibly like a rematch with him if you one day, if you stay fighting for a while?
Yeah, last night I had an interview with MMA Junkie and kind of officially announced the retirement. So
you did? Okay.
Yeah. So they just broke the story. They just broke the story like a few minutes ago on Twitter.
Oh, no kidding. So I was gonna say, damn, how'd I miss that? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It just recently just broke. So I would have loved to have had a lot of rematches, but I'm satisfied with the way my career played out and with the way I left it.
Yeah.
And to give people, you know, a fight of the night on my last one,
yeah,
that means a lot. So that's the way I want people to remember me, you know.
Well, I mean, at least you kind of got to go off in the sunset. Like, not a lot of fighters, they end up going out on losses, you know. So, I think you got to go out on a W, and I mean, I think you've accomplished a lot. You run a gym, you were saying earlier, so you know it's not like you need fighting to get by or anything. Like, I think I respect the decision. And you know, I'm happy for you. That's good. You know, it's you know, you've had a lot of fights and want to quit while you're ahead.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think the toughest thing about being a professional athlete is realizing kind of when your time is up and exiting the sport. You know, I wanted to do it with dignity and with my head held up. You know, I wrestled since I was 14 years old. My high school career ended on a loss, and my college wrestling career ended on a loss. And those were hard pills to swallow, you know. But those losses pushed me to improve as an athlete. Like, without those losses, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So, you know, you got to kind of take the good with the bad, and sometimes losses help you grow.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad I was able to end my MMA career on a win.
Absolutely, man. And so you said you started wrestling in high school, right? Is that kind of how you got into MMA, like from there?
Yeah. So even before high school, like as a little kid, as far back as I can even remember, like I was a huge Bruce Lee fan. So he was the one that kind of got me into martial arts, and I started with Taekwondo even before high school. And then one of my older brothers joined the wrestling team. And I kind of followed in his footsteps once I hit high school. And then I just kind of really fell in love with the sport. I was already a fan of UFC by the time I hit high school. Like I think it was in junior high, maybe sixth or seventh grade, where I saw my first UFC event. My brother brought home a VHS and made us all watch it. So it was already in the back of my head that I wanted to do that one day. So that was another reason why I kind of wanted to start wrestling. I was a huge fan of all those old school wrestlers like Dan Severn and you know, Mark Coleman and all that. So started wrestling when I was 14 and just kind of continued through college.
And so that's what would you consider the most important aspect of MMA? Like, if you were to, you know, talk to someone who's younger and they want to get into it, what would you say is a good one to start with? I hear wrestling a lot.
And I'm biased because that was my base and that's what I grew up doing. But I think wrestling is super important because it helps you dictate whether the fight stays on the feet or not, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you could have a lot of great jiu-jitsu guys that don't focus on the takedowns or takedown defense.
Yeah.
So wrestling plays a huge part in that. It's pretty much the only pillar of MMA where, you know, you train takedowns as much as you train defending takedowns.
Yeah.
So, and you know, that's huge when it comes to a fight. You know, you take a guy down, you could win the round by one takedown, you know, and
exactly. If it's close,
If it's close, exactly. So I think it's super important to learn the takedowns and the takedown defense that you get from wrestling.
Yeah, I agree. I think that wrestling is huge, you know, and wrestlers, you know, a lot of wrestlers have been really thriving lately. I mean, there's quite a few who are champs, or, you know, it's definitely, in my opinion, probably the most important aspect of the fight game.
Yeah, for sure.
So what was I gonna say? What do you personally think was the best performance of your career? You had a lot of finishes, a lot of great fights. Which one do you think stood out to you? Maybe the Bermudez one. I know you said
Bermudez was a great performance. I felt like I was just kind of on. I had his timing the whole fight. He wasn't really hitting me with anything. My Eric Koch fight also, I felt like I had a really good performance, and that was the fight that kind of earned me a title shot.
Yeah.
So I think those two were kind of head and head with best performances that I've had. My Diego Sanchez fight too kind of stands out a lot. I really kind of caught his rhythm and caught his timing and was able to capitalize a lot in that fight. Other than that, I mean, there's a lot, but I think those three kind of stand out as really good performances.
And how many like different countries did you have you been to throughout your career?
Most of my fights have been in the United States, and then I had 3 fights in Mexico. I had a fight in South America and Argentina. I was supposed to fight in Manila, and I was actually sent out there to do promo for the fight a few months, before the event was supposed to take place. So that was the farthest that I've traveled, was to Manila.
No. Yeah.
Actually, Argentina was a long flight too. I didn't realize how far it was, but.
Was that the fight with Darren Elkins?
Yes.
Yeah,
yep.
I thought so. And I remember I actually bet some money on you that fight, so I was pretty excited. Because I remember the first round was close. I think Elkins won the first, and then you kind of came back in the second, and then just beat him in the third. And that was after the Emmett fight, if I'm not mistaken. That was your next fight back, so that must have felt really good. That was it? If I'm not mistaken, it was. I can't remember.
It was after I think it was after the Bektic fight, actually.
The Bektic fight, yeah, and that was that's right. Because you did lose 2 in a row, but I kind of thought you beat Bektic, but
it was a close one. It was a split decision, and it could have went either way. Bektic, he did a really good fight. I think he scored some takedowns that kind of sat in the judges' minds. Yeah. Even though I was being really busy off my back and was threatening with a lot of submissions, and
you
almost had a guillotine on him. He was gurgling for a second there, but by then we were just a little bit too sweaty, and he was able to slip out.
Yeah, and that's what we were just talking about a couple minutes ago, about wrestling can really edge you the fight.
Exactly.
And the BJ, they had you out in Manila, and what, BJ just didn't show up? What exactly happened there? Like, why did the whole thing get canceled?
He got injured. I guess he did something to his rib in training and decided to pull out of the fight. And then I don't know if there were some other injuries that occurred from some of the other fighters on the card, but UFC just decided to scrap the whole thing. And it was at a weird time too. There's a lot of stuff politically going on in the Philippines.
And
I think that it was just going to be too much of a headache for the UFC to go there. Like, Philippines, I don't know if you knew it, but the president of the Philippines kind of declared this war on like drugs, and basically told citizens of the Philippines that they wouldn't get in trouble if they saw somebody dealing drugs and went and like killed that person.
Holy shit.
Yeah, there was a lot of crazy stuff going on. So I think, the UFC just decided to scrap the whole thing because it just wasn't worth the headache.
UFC hasn't had many events there, have they? Before that one, I mean, I know they haven't went back there since. I don't think.
Yeah, they haven't went back there since. They did have an event before, and I believe it was Uriah Faber versus Frankie Edgar. They were the main event of the Manila card, because I remember watching it at like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So I think that was the only time they had gone out there.
Yeah, I doubt maybe they'll go back there again, but I'm assuming everything's kind of chilled out since then, like the drugs thing.
Yeah.
So you've only, I mean, since your last fight was in December, or no, not December, sorry, June. It was June of 2019. This one was your first fight during this whole pandemic. So how was training? How was training and all that for this one?
Training, so I was scheduled to fight May 2nd. That was the first, the first booking with Ryan Hall.
Right.
And that is when, I had just signed the fight, and maybe like 2 weeks after, they decided to shut everything down.
Right. Yeah.
So we had to close the gym, and I was basically training alone in the gym by myself. And one of my partners in the gym would come in 3 days a week and put me through conditioning, but we would still keep that social distance from each other. So it was super weird training for that, like alone. But then the event got canceled. And for this time, it was a little bit more back to normal. Like I was training with people, had training partners. The only difference was I cut my camp short in Miami because I usually go for about a month before the fight.
Yep.
And because COVID was just exploding down there, I decided to cut it a little short. I went for 2 weeks and then flew straight to the fight from Miami. And then when I was there, it was more like me doing one-on-one sessions with my coaches, and then just a couple training partners because we didn't want to like, intermix too many people because of just fear of the spread. And if I would have come up with COVID, they would have canceled the fight. So
yeah, well, so many fighters are getting COVID. It seems like, I mean, this last one yesterday, I think they had like 3 people on the card get COVID or something. Like 3 fights got scrapped.
Yeah.
So yeah, fucking, it would be scary to be a fighter right now because a lot of fighters right now are getting COVID. It seems like. And so how was like the weight cutting for the, like, was that harder to make weight for this camp or not really?
No, actually, this was probably the easiest weight cut that I had my entire career.
Really?
Yeah, because I cut my camp short, so I was doing a lot of training on my own. I really hit the weights really hard, so tons of weightlifting and tons of running. I ran every day. When normally I would run maybe every other day, I was doing road work every day for this fight. My weight was ahead of schedule going to Miami. My weight was ahead of schedule, fight week when I got out to Vegas. And it was like the only time that I could remember, like the day of weigh-ins, when I wake up, I was actually able to pee. So I still had like fluids in me, even though I was on weight. So I just did a really good job. And then, I was kind of on a meal prep service down in Miami. My friend that I was staying with, they have this meal prep called Balanced Life Bento. So they were prepping all my meals for me, and that helped a lot with my weight, just keeping it down.
And I was actually going to ask you earlier, because you fought for a long time, it's getting older. I know a lot of fighters kind of struggle more to make the weight. Was that not the case for you? It always.
No, it wasn't the case for me. Even in my wrestling career, I have never once missed weight. Never. Even if it was for like an off-season tournament where it didn't even really matter, I never missed weight. And throughout my career, I just kept kind of fine-tuning things and finding little things here and there that would just help me keep my weight down even better. And I've been cutting weight since I was 14 years old. So yeah. I know how to do it. I know how to get down the right way without killing myself. And I never had a problem with that.
And what's your general, like, walking around weight? Like, how much weight do you usually have to cut?
If I have a nice happy diet and I'm kind of eating whatever I want, I fluctuate. I'm about 175 pounds is my walking weight.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of standard for a featherweight, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think most guys will kind of walk around between 165 to 175.
And all of your fights, if your pro career, were at featherweight, if I'm not right, or did you have any other, like, one at lightweight or bantamweight or anything?
I started at lightweight.
Okay.
I fought at lightweight in the WEC, and I didn't drop. Okay. Yep, I didn't drop to featherweight until I got into the UFC.
You must have been a pretty small lightweight then.
Not really, because I was lifting a lot more. So, like, I was a little bigger, and then when I decided to make the drop, I just had to pick up my my cardio, and it kind of trimmed me down a little bit.
Yeah, and I guess fighters, I feel like back in the day, like 10 plus years ago, fighters weren't cutting as much weight. I think, like, look at Frankie. Frankie was the champion of lightweight, and he fucking didn't cut anything.
Yeah, he walked around at like 156 or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are pros and cons to it, because then you do have guys that do cut a lot of weight, and then they're super heavy. Like on fight day, they outweigh you by like 20 pounds. Yeah. But then, guys like Frankie who didn't cut weight, they didn't put their body through that much stress, and obviously it showed with Frankie's gas tank. That dude just keep going and going.
Yeah, it would benefit him as the later rounds came in.
Yep.
So now that you're officially retired, what you have your gym, but any other plans, like things to do with your life now that fighting's over?
Yeah, I've been thinking. I've been competing for so long. It's like the only thing I know how to do. Yeah. And I know I'll probably get the itch to compete again eventually. So maybe just like I've never competed in jiu-jitsu before.
Yeah.
So that's something that definitely interests me, and maybe I'll do some old man tournaments or something. And,
old man tournaments.
Yeah, get back in there and do some jiu-jitsu competitions. But besides that, just really focusing on the gym, on my members there, and just kind of building a fight team of my own. There are a lot of young up and coming fighters from around the area here that I've been helping out, and now I could kind of shift my focus and kind of help them out more. And maybe get some of my own guys to the UFC one day.
That would be cool, and you could be in their corner.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's you're talking about old man tournaments, but there's Submission Underground is maybe. Have you watched any of those before? You could maybe do that one day.
Yeah, I have. I've watched those. I've watched like the quintets. That's a pretty cool idea where it's like a team of 5 guys and you just keep grappling till you lose.
Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah. I saw something
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Do you you have a son who's like 5 or something? Yeah. I want to say somewhere around there. Does he train at all? Like, are you getting him into MMA?
I've like taught him stuff here and there, but right now he doesn't have the attention span to last in like a kid's class yet. So I'm waiting maybe 1 or 2 more years before I start putting him into that. And but I mean, he loves it. All he wants to do is wrestle with me and play fight with me and stuff like that. So I'm sure it's something that he'll want to get into.
Did he ever watch any of your fights, or a little too young for that?
I did play some of my fights for him, and they got yelled at by my wife for showing it to him. Yeah, okay. When he's a little older, we'll show it to him.
All right. Well, Ricardo, I've had you on about half hour here. I know you're a busy guy. I really appreciate you coming on, especially right after the news broke that you retired. It was congrats on a great career, dude. And it was an honor to interview you today. Thank you.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for your support over the years. I know I've been talking to you for a while on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, so. I know, man. Like when you followed me, I was like so excited. It was really kind of a dream come true to actually get to chat with you. It really means a lot, dude. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, man. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day.
You too.
Okay, bye.
Take it easy.